Vidya.
Right, okay. Now it seems that we are just wasting time. So let's start the discussion. Tharani,
ma'am.
are you listening?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Right. Now, actually, this is the last slide, of course. This and this. These two are the last slides from our previous discussion. And before I, of course, stop the work, during the previous session, I asked the students to try these two questions. Now, I don't know whether you can remember, Tharani, about it now.
No, ma'am, I can remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. And the thing is, Tharani, now, of course, only you are there and others might listen to the video,
Yeah.
right, recording. But I just want to know whether you all, right, not only you, those who are following this program are sure of what should be done here. Whether they have got some clear idea regarding what is expected from them with these two questions. That's the thing I want to make sure. But the problem is that only one student is there in the meeting. So I don't know what the others are feeling about this. Actually, now I have come to the end of our discussion on vowel sound, the production of vowels, right? Now in detail, I hope you remember, we have been talking about the consonants, vowels, taking so many hours actually. In your model, a large part has been allocated to talk about this production of sounds to that level, to that aspect. So because of that, I had to take long hours for that. And this is the not actually the end, but here with this section, I'm finishing the discussion of production of consonants and particularly vowel sounds. But the thing is, the student should be able to handle a question like this. Right now, you just go through this, give a complete description of the vowel sound represented by the symbol. I have given you 5 symbols here. So you need to identify what the vowel sound is by looking at the symbol, and you are required to give a complete description. And that's the first part of the question. And the second part of the question, and then give an English word containing the sound. So that's nothing, right? That's quite simple work. But the first part is very much important, actually. It's very much important because complete description means you need to think about the characteristics of vowel sounds when you provide a description of vowels. So for that, you need to base on the cardinal vowel diagram. So at the moment, I don't think of repeating what we have discussed about the characteristics of vowel sounds that are represented in the cardinal vowel diagram. You can, I think, refer to that particular recording, right? And just remind the stuff. But here, in answering to a question like this, of course, it is quite useful if you remember the cardinal vowel diagram, right? Remember in the sense, now there are basically 12 monotones, so 12 pure vowels. And you have to have, now actually, Tharani, when I say you, it's not only you, right? All the students who are following this course, right? Okay. So you have to have an idea regarding, now, for example, look at the first one, oo. This is oo. So according to the criteria which we have discussed in relation to the vowel productions, you should be able to give the characteristics of this vowel, the first vowel, oo. For example, is a high vowel, right? Or back vowel, close vowel, lip rounded or spread vowel, like this. Now there are 4 phonetic criteria we have discussed in relation to the vowels. The tongue, in relation to the behavior of the tongue, which part of the tongue is moving, and to what extent the tongue is rising towards the palate when we produce sounds, and the position of the mouth, open or closed, and also the 4th one, lip rounding, whether the lips are rounded or not. So according to these 4, you need to tell whether which label you can give to the given vowel sound. So it's actually a matter of 4 words, although it says complete description, right? Complete description, when you, if you have very clear idea in your mind regarding the cardinal vowel diagram, of course, this is nothing. So it's just now what, Tharani, would you like to try the first one? I'm not asking you to try all these now. Okay, it takes a long time. But at least by listening to this, you all will be able to get some idea how to try, how to do, how to write the answers for the others also. So when you think about oo, just remember where oo is in the vowel diagram, cardinal vowel diagram. Oo is somewhere at the back part, right? So now if you have the diagram, you just find it and have a look at it, Tharani, because now I'm not going to change the slides, right? It is there somewhere in the previous slides, but I'm not going to that now.
Yes.
So oo. This is short oo, right? I have given you short oo
Yes.
sound.
Hmm.
So oo sound is now if you just think about the first phonetic criterion, which part of the tongue is moving when we say this, when we pronounce oo, right? So it's the back part.
Back part.
Back
Yes.
part means oo is a back vowel. I will just write the letter B only. Or else I will write this is not that easy. Okay. Give me 1 second. I can annotate. All right. 1 second. Right. Okay. So oo is a back vowel, right? So that is according to the first phonetic criterion. And the second phonetic criterion is about the level of the tongue, how far the tongue is rising when towards the palate, when we produce vowels. So when we say oo, the tongue is now, what do you think? Is it close to the palate or does it lie down there in the mouth? Ooh, ooh.
It's
Is it somewhat close to the palate or is it lying low over there?
it's kind of lower.
Kind of lower. When you say ooh,
Not
lower means yeah, lower means now you can get a very clear example. The sound which is not here, right? I have not given it here, but the vowel you can imagine the tongue position when you say it's quite low, right? The tongue lies down inside the mouth. But when you say ooh, the tongue is not like that. It's not like that, right? It is actually a mid. Kind of mid. So just refer the cardinal vowel diagram, right? It is not 100% high, of course. Our tongue is not touching the upper part of the mouth, no, the palate. When we say ooh, no, tongue is not touching, which means it lies somewhere in the middle level. So we can say mid, right? Back vowel, mid vowel. And the third phonetic criterion, the mouth opening or closing. So when we say ooh, what do you think about the mouth position? I'm not talking about the lip position, right? Mouth. Is it closed? In the sense almost closed or is it open? When we
not almost close because of you.
Yeah. Ooh. Ooh is actually close. It's a close vowel. Right. Because now you can always compare this with another different vowel sound so that you can get a very clear idea, right? So when we produce again our mouth is quite open, right?
Yes.
Our mouth is very much open. But when we say ooh, mouth is not that open. Of course, we can't say anything by closing our mouth. But here, close does not mean that, okay? It's almost close, kind of. So when we say ooh, our mouth is almost closed. So that's a close vowel, right? And the fourth, the last phonetic criterion is about the lip rounding. So what do you think about the It's a rounded vowel because when we produce oo, our both lips, upper and lower lips are rounded, right? Both are rounded, so that's lip rounded vowel. And the opposite of this, lip spread vowel. Okay, so we have discussed all these. Actually, we discussed all these 4 phonetic criteria. So if you have anything like this in your evaluations, just to provide a description, complete or detailed description about the production of some given vowel sounds, this is what you should do. Actually, I have done it with 4 words. But depending on the marks allocated in your assessments, right, you need to expand this. Just saying and phonetic criterion. Likewise, you depending on how your answer is going to be assessed, you need to elaborate or expand. these 4 words. So that is the requirement. Complete description means that. I think, Tarani, you follow what I say.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Got it.
And of course, if you think about this question, the second part of it, give an English word containing the sound. So quite easy word. But simply,
Yes.
you can just think about a word where oo sound is there. This is not you, right? This is oo, oo. So can you
Yes.
find any word where oo is there?
It's to
Simply,
put.
yeah, put. So there
To.
are so many words you can find, right? Even, yeah. Okay. So these are some examples. It asks you to provide one word only. So, okay, so just don't bother too much with the second part, but first part you have to be clear. Complete description. How to provide a complete description. So the thing is, there are so many other vowel sounds now. In this question, I have given altogether 5, but there are 12. There are
Yes.
12. So you need to develop your capability to provide a complete description about any vowel sound from these 12, considering or based on the 4 phonetic criteria regarding the vowel production. So that is what is expected from you all. Okay.
Yeah.
So at the moment, I am not going to discuss the other 4 vowel sounds actually. Now, other 4 means now the last 2 are, of course, diphthongs. Hope you can notice that, right?
Yeah.
These 2 are diphthongs. So when you talk about the diphthongs, of course, there are 2 types. So you don't have to bother about these 4 phonetic criteria which we normally use to talk about the monothongs. These are monothongs, pure vowels. But when you talk about the diphthongs, we talked about 2 types of diphthongs, centering and what is the other one?
Front. Central.
Centering diphthong and closing diphthong. Okay, so these are the 2 types of diphthongs. So you need to identify OE, whether it's centering diphthong or closing diphthong. And then complete description means you can't just say only that, you have to say why. Okay, and whether the question asks you to provide examples or not, you should provide examples in order to complete your answer. Whatever the answer you produce, always provide examples, right? That is for the safer side for you, right? So that is the nature of this question, right? So I advise you all to be ready to handle this sort of questions. Otherwise, there's no point in following a module like this if you are not capable of identifying the features or characteristics of vowels as well as consonants in detail. Okay, right. So that's the requirement, Tarani. Then I'm moving on to the next one because I don't want to stay in this question. I just wanted to explain the nature regarding what is expected from the students from a question like this. Okay.
Okay.
And this is the other one, quite simple one, of course, right? And I just thought of giving it to you as a revision kind of work. Give the phonetic symbol for the vowel sound in each of the following words. Phonetic symbol, right? For the vowel sound in each of the following words. So now you have so many words here. All are simple words, right? Not lengthy ones. So you can find, of course, all are monosyllabic words. Monosyllabic means only one syllable. Only one syllable means single vowel sound. Maybe one monothong, pure vowel, or one diphthong. That's all. So in each word, the point is, in each word, there is only one vowel sound, right? That's the idea. So you need to identify that. Identify the sound and then write that is the word. So what about a work like this? This will help you, of course, to remember the phonetic symbols, right? Keep the phonetic symbols in the mind, right? That doing this kind of works will be useful. So Tharani, so I'm not going to discuss the answers. Of course, there's nothing to discuss here, right? Now, for example, the first one, can you identify the vowel sound here?
B.Ed.
Don't go by the spellings, right? You should read the word using the spellings, and then you get to know what the word is, then you pronounce it in mind. Oh, loudly, never mind, right? You pronounce the word, then only you will find which vowel sound is there, right? If you too much keep on reading the word by looking at the spellings, you will be definitely misled. Okay, just so this is build.
Yeah.
What is the vowel sound?
E.
Yeah, this is not capital I, right? I mean, it's not that. This is the symbol for E, short E, build.
Short E.
Or else, even this symbol is also used, right? This sort of symbol. So you can use either for first one or the second one, whatever, as per your convenience. So this is the answer. That's it. E. So similarly, now there are words that are familiar and that are not familiar, maybe among the words in the list. So as a just exercise, right? As a practice, you just do this. Okay. So this is very simple work. So I will not be taking any class time to talk about the vowel sounds represented in each and every word here, right? That's no need. Okay, Tarini, then I'm closing this, right?
Okay, ma'am.
Actually, that is the end of our previous discussion. And now I'm going to move on to today's one. Right. Right now, this is our next area of discussion. Right. So this is about phonology, phonotactics, and suprasegmentals. Now, so far you need to understand we have been there in phonetics. Right? We have been spending our time, we have been talking, discussing, done everything in phonetics. And now, you know, phonetics and phonology are interconnected. Now, always these two words go together, no? Right? Phonetics and phonology go together. So, still we have talked about only phonetics. And from this point, we are moving to phonology area now. Okay. So we are starting our discussion on phonology, and with that, we are going to pay our attention to something on phonotactics, because now when you are doing your further readings in this field, in this area, you definitely will find this word phonotactics. Not very common, but if you are quite a studious fellow, right? If you are in the habit of reading, finding more information, in the habit of searching for knowledge, you might find this word definitely, phonotactics. So we are going to think about that as well. And the other most important term, suprasegmental sounds. Suprasegmental. So these three are actually, in this topic, you have these three in the same title. But phonology itself is a vast area, right? And phonotactics is also the same. And suprasegmental is another vast area. So these three are individually, if you consider vast areas, broad areas, but in your module, you don't have that length, right? And the thing is, Tarani, now we are going to discuss the same areas in quite a brief way, of course. Okay, so don't think that you will be learning everything on phonology or phonotactics or suprasegmentals from this lecture. I need to highlight that point. Okay, and because now, because of the time problems, right? Restraints in the timing. I have to hurry up my discussions, and therefore I will be definitely skipping certain areas which I think you can easily refer to the module and catch. Okay, so I am not, of course, following line by line. That kind of method is not used by myself. So you have to refer the module. I mean, you need to read the module to complement what we have been talking in this lecture. That's all. Lecture and the module, both things should be referred by the students. All right. Just don't think that, okay, can just listen to the recording and it will cover everything. No, please don't. Right? It's not like that. So I need to tell it to you at the very beginning, because in this area, I'll be skipping certain things, and I just basically only I'm conducting my discussion. Okay. Right then, these are the areas. In this lesson, we have to talk about phonemes, and then phonemic rules, phonological processes, phonotactics, suprasegmental features, and finally, syllable structure. So 6 different areas are there. Okay, so here, as I earlier told to you a few seconds ago, I would be discussing about phonemes, phonemic rules, and for example, just to talk about the phonemic rules, I may be dragging some examples that are there from the module as well as from elsewhere. And sometimes I may not be discussing all the examples that are provided in the module. Okay, but after listening to the lecture, what we discuss here, you develop the ability to read the module and understand the rest. I hope you get what my point says, right? Okay. Well, so now then these are the major areas. So let's start with the first one then, phonemes. Okay, so usually we get the word phoneme when we talk about phonology, right? Not phonetics. But the thing is, both are the same here. I mean, phoneme is the same with speech sound. Now, so far, while we were talking about the consonants and vowels, I constantly use the word sounds. To be more specific, I told speech sounds, right? So vowels are speech sounds, consonants are speech sounds, and diphthongs, semi-vowels, all are speech sounds, of course. So we use the word speech sounds, especially in phonetics area. But when we move on to phonology, the same thing, right? Same thing is named as what? As phonemes. So actually phonemes are the things you already know. They are the speech sounds.
Speech sounds.
Speech sounds like g, p, m, ch, j, l, a, e, o, e, etc., etc. All these are speech sounds, and phonemes are these speech sounds. But in phonology, of course, now phonetics and phonology little bit different, right? Phonetics means studying the human speech sounds in isolation. We talk about how we produce speech sounds, especially the production part is highlighted. How we produce per, how we produce l, how we produce r, etc. So that is what is happening in phonetics. But when we move on to phonology, right, it deals with the study of these speech sounds in combination, not one by one consideration, like in phonetics. Okay, when we combine speech sounds, of course, why do we combine speech sounds? Because we want to communicate some idea. Okay, we want to communicate. Then our communication will not be complete or successful if there's no meaning. So the basic thing in phonology is to see how we can express meaning. Okay, how we can express meaning by combining several different speech sounds together. That is the focus, aim in phonology. So just keep that idea in the mind and let's think about phonemes. So we need to talk about the word phonemes in that background. Okay, right. So now let's see, a phoneme is a distinctive or contrastive sound in a language. Now already you know, phoneme is a human speech sound. Yeah, that is it. But here you have some additional information. Phoneme is a distinctive or contrastive sound in a language. So distinctive, I think you have some idea about the word distinctive. It means what? It is different. Different. That is the actually the simple way of explaining the word distinctive is different. So for one, the point is this: one phoneme is different from another phoneme. So what distinctive means in this context is that the sound makes a difference in meaning and has communicative value, right? So because phoneme is distinctive, it is a contrastive sound as well, because one phoneme is different from another phoneme, which means there is a contrast, not similarity. No. If one phoneme is different from another phoneme, we'll say phoneme A is different from phoneme B. Then we say phoneme A is distinctive and phoneme B is also distinctive because both are different from each other. Because of that, we can say phoneme A is contrasting to phoneme B because both are not the same, not alike, because they are different, right? And distinctive and contrastive, these two words go together, of course. So different phonemes make contrasting words. So now look at this example. N, L, and T are all phonemes, right? They are phonemes because they serve to make contrast in words. So you need to understand this contrastive feature in relation to the different meanings of the words. Now look at this example. It's very clear. You can understand easily. Our three examples are na, la, and ta. Right? Now look at the words. In nab, right? In nab, we have na, right? We have na. And in lab, we have la. And in tab, we have ta. So I have circled the initial sounds. And what do you think about the rest of these three words? Same. Rest, which means the pronunciation is the same. So still we have three words. Then what makes that difference among these three words? Because nab is totally different from lab. And that is totally different from tab because these three have three different meanings. Three different contrastive words. So which makes that difference among these three words? As you can guess, what is the reason for the difference for these three words then? The use of the initial sound. So if I use la instead of na in the first word, nab will turn to lab. And the meaning will completely change. So it is the initial sound, the first sound that makes the difference among these three words, right? So that is why we say these are phonemes. Na is a phoneme, la is a phoneme, and ta is also another phoneme. So that is the quality of a phoneme, okay? Quality or the feature of a phoneme is that it is distinctive. It is different from another phoneme, and that is why nab, lab, tab are three different words. Because na, la, ta are distinctive. They are different. And because of that feature, we can say they are contrastive. Because different phonemes make contrasting words. So which makes the contrast among these three different words? The distinctive, the different phonemes. So therefore, the use of these three distinctive phonemes makes the contrast among these three words. That is the idea. So when you talk about phoneme, actually, you can't say phoneme is a sound. It's right, okay? That is right. But you need to think more beyond that. It is a sound. What kind of a sound is that? It is a distinctive sound because one phoneme is a distinctive sound from another phoneme. Because a phoneme is distinctive, it can create contrast among the words. Okay, it can create contrast or differences among the words. So this is the basic characteristic of phonemes when you talk about phonemes. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Then when we talk about phonemes, of course, you should know about minimal pairs, right? A very commonly used word in phonology, especially when we talk about phonemes and their characteristics. Minimal pair is quite important. So I'll give you around 1 minute, because rather than just listening to these facts all anew, just go through this. Everybody, right, who are listening to this, just go through these lines 1 minute, okay, and get some quick idea. Okay, right. So minimal pair, it's a set of different words. Set of different words consisting of all the same sounds except for one. Actually, I should underline the whole sentence, so because it gives you the whole idea about what minimal pair is.
Yes.
It's a set of course, a pair of, right? Pair of different words consisting of all the same sounds except for one different sound, right? Except for one means other than one different sound, all the other sounds are same in the pair. So the one sound which contrasts is then determined to be a phoneme, since it makes a difference in meaning. So it differentiates one word from another. Actually, this is now we can't call this is a pair because there are three words, but what we discussed here is what you have in this line, minimal pairs, right? Here it says a set of different words. Now look at this. Nab, lab, tab is a set of different words. We never say nab, lab, tab are same words. We never say they are same, right? Because the initial sound is different, fine. The most importantly, the meaning is different. Three have three different meanings. And how do they go different? Only from one sound. Only from one sound, which is the first sound, right? Which is the first sound. N, L, and T. Only the first sound makes the contrast. That is what we discussed earlier. So minimal pair is that kind of a set of different words consisting of all the same sounds except for one sound. So this sound, which contrast, is determined to be a phoneme. So if you go back to our previous example, n, l, t are phonemes. Since it makes a difference in meaning, right? Difference in meaning. And of course, it differentiates one word from another. Nab is different from lab because of na and la. If you use la instead of na, it turns to lab. And if you use ta instead of la, it turns to tab, right? So phonemes differentiate one word from another. Differentiate here means actually showing different, right? It's making different from the other. Now you have more examples anyway. We could set up a phonetic environment or a sequence of sounds, such as an environment containing the sound sequence A. Okay, now this one example here. This is ACK, right? Vowel and consonant both are there, no? Right? Sound sequence ACT. So if we then establish a blank slot preceding this sequence, if you have something at the beginning, right, before at, and substitute different consonants in this slot, we can see if we get different words. So if we do, then each of these consonants is a phoneme. Look at the example. Now this is what I told you. At is the rest of the word, okay? And we can assign any phoneme to the beginning. As you can see in this example, see, if in front of at, in the first word, I have placed per. And the second word, then the word is packed. And if I place the sound b, it becomes bat. And if I use it becomes sat, mat, nat, fat. Of course, I should underline some. That, that, cat, it goes on like that. But you know, very clearly, you know, all these words are different words from each other, from one another, right? Pat is not similar to bat, and bat is not similar to sato. Nothing is similar to the others. All are totally how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 different words, and if you want, you might be able to find some more, of course, ending with at. And in the first initial position, you have a different sound. And the point is, if we come to the point here, right, the difference among these words is created by the initial sound. Because the word becomes pat because I have used per. But if I use ber instead of per, the word becomes bat, which means something completely different. Right? Yeah. So now this is actually a set of different words. Now what I told you here, set of different words. This is the example. This is this kind of set of different words consisting of all the same sounds. So you can find the latter part of all these words is the same, ending with that, except for one, except for the first sound. So first sound is different. So because of that difference, all these words go different. So therefore we say these underlying sounds are phonemes. They are phonemes. So actually minimal pair is a pair. Now you know pair is two, no? Right? Pair means there have to be two things, two. So minimal pair means two words, like pin, tin, that kind of word sets. But here you have, of course, I have taken all these examples from the module. Instead of a pair, you have 9 words altogether. So that is rather than saying a pair, set of different words. But the common term which you can find if you read, right, would be minimal pairs. Now let's see. Okay, you have some more. So then, per, b, s, m, n, f, t, v, and k are all phonemes. Now, these underlying sounds are all phonemes. We can call them phonemes because they create differences or contrast among the words. Okay. And you have a very clear example for minimal pair, bat and cat. Just take two words out of that, bat and cat. The rest is the same, at is the same. And b and k are different. Also, you can just think about nat and wat. They are also the nat initial sound is different and the rest is the same. Okay, so can just convert this set into pairs like this. Bat cat is a minimal pair and nat and wat is another minimal pair. So in a minimal pair, just think that there have to be two words only, right? Two words, and both these words are the same except for one sound. Both the words are the same except for one sound. As you can see then, at is the same. The initial sound is different. Okay, right. So minimal pairs are important. It's useful for us to explain the nature of phoneme, right? So wherever you find the word phoneme, definitely you will get some examples from minimal pairs. By referring to them, you can easily understand the nature and the characteristic of phoneme because we say phonemes are distinctive and contrastive sounds. So how do we know that phonemes are contrastive? By looking at the minimal pair. So minimal pairs are useful for us to understand the nature of the distinctive nature of the phonemes. Okay, that is why all these are going together. It continues here. The same concept of a minimal pair holds true for vowels as well. Now, so far actually we were looking at the consonants as phonemes now here. In bat, b is the phoneme and k is the phoneme, right? And the rest is the same. So all these are phonemes. But at the same time, we can find this in relation to vowels as well. Now see, another example, you have phonetic environment such as per, make the environment, right? This is the environment. And in the middle, you should have some vowel sound. In the beginning, you have per, at the end, you have t. In the middle, you can have a vowel. So substituting different vowels in the empty slot, we can generate numeral minimal pairs. Now, this is the environment, okay? And you can see in the empty slot means in the middle, if you want, you can insert E. Then the word becomes pit. All right. Or if you want, you can insert long E sound. This one. Where the two dots should be there, right? So then it is P. Or else, the third option, you can insert the diphthong, A. A. The diphthong A. Diphthong is also a kind of vowel, right? So we can use diphthong if we want, then it will be pet. Or else we can insert O, the vowel O, then the word will become pot. And if we use the diphthong AU, the word will be pot. But if we insert U, the word is put. And if we insert A, right now this symbol, I hope you, I just think that you remember, A, sudden A, then it will be pat. Okay. And if we insert A, it will be pat. And if we insert A, it will be pet. So now can you think how many minimal pairs are there? Because the environment is the same. starting consonant and ending consonant is the same, per and ter. But in the middle, we can go for several different vowel sounds. Then what is our conclusion then? With the vowels I have underlined here, these are all what? Distinct phonemes. Because by choosing any vowel sound we want, we can change the meaning of the word. If I choose the first vowel, the word turns to pitno. But if I choose the second vowel, it becomes speed, which is a different word. Okay. Right. So not only consonants, right? We can see vowels also in minimal pairs. And our point is both consonants and vowels are distinctive phonemes. Distinctive phonemes that can make contrast among the words. That is what we have been talking so far about this. And now you have some more facts about phonemes, because we are talking about phonemes. Right. There is some debate about the nature of the phoneme. Debate, right? Okay. So one view is that it has some psychological validity. Psychological validity. It is a concept in the mind. Okay, phoneme is a kind of concept. In Sinhala, we say sankalpayak, concept. And usually, concepts are there in the mind. That is abstract. We can't see it. We can't see the concepts. We can't touch the concepts. Usually, concepts lie in the mind of a person. So, the phoneme is just a concept in the mind, right? According to one view. Another view is that it is an abstraction or an ideal sound. Ideal sound. And in practice, these sounds may not exist as they are, just an ideal sound, ideal kind of thing. And there's a third view. It says it refers to a class of sounds which are phonetically similar. Class of sounds. Now, can you say I'm underlining the basic ideas? Concept in the mind, right? So according to one set, they say phoneme is only a concept that is there in the mind. And according to another view, they say that's an abstract or kind of ideal state, ideal sound. Whereas the third set says it's a class of sounds which are phonetically similar, but not identical, not the same, 100% same, and have the same phonological function. Okay, so actually don't have to think too much about, don't have to go in detail, thinking about analyzing the first view, second view, third view, like that. You just know that there are some criticisms and some debates, of course, about the nature of the phoneme, how the phoneme can exist, right? So the last two views are probably the easiest to comprehend, last two views, and they have the further advantage of incorporating the notion of the allophone. Now, this is our next discussion, right? We are going to talk about allophone, which is equally important as phoneme. Okay, if you are a phonology student, you should know about phoneme as well as allophone, because these are commonly used terms in this field of study. Okay, so according to this point, it says the second and third views are quite relevant and easy to understand, because actually they are much more practical, especially the third point, because it says phoneme is a class of sounds. It is not just a single sound, it is a class of sounds. So inside the phoneme, there are so many other similar kind of phonemes. That is the meaning of class of sounds. No? So they are phonetically similar, but not 100% the same. So and so, actually this point is quite practical, right? This third view is very much practical because it it has a reference to phoneme, allophone also. Okay, right. So now let's move on to the allophone discussion. Allophone, right. So here also I'm going to give you another minute go through and be initially familiar with this. Right. Now, here I think just the time is enough for only one reading. The major idea, yeah, you need to get about allophones is this, right? Allophones. Allo means, it means other, phone, sound, right? So then allophones means other sounds. That is the idea. Other sounds, but it's not complete, right? Other sounds of the same phoneme. It should be like that. Other sounds of the same phoneme. Now let's see this. Allophone is a predictable variant of a phoneme. Predictable variant. Predictable, just don't confuse with the word predictable. Just understand it as a variant of a phoneme. Variant. Now we have phonemes. We will take just choose one per, right? Per is a phoneme, for example. And when we talk about this phoneme, of course, there are a lot of allophones of this per. Lot of allophones, in other words, lot of variants of this phoneme. Variants means actually phoneme is per, right? There is no change there. Phoneme is per, but when we practically produce this sound, okay, because sometimes per can come at the beginning of a word. In some other situations, per can come in the middle of a word. And there are situations where per occurs at the end of a word. Initial, middle, end position. So likewise, in variety of positions, we use per, right? We pronounce per. So depending on these positions, right? Or depending on whatever other reason, sometimes we pronounce per in different ways. Sometimes we stress in the sense we produce the phoneme per with a very big articulatory effort, with a puff of air, per, like pen. Now in Sri Lankan context, of course, you may not say the word as like that, right, with an aspiration, but you can find in natives, right, among the natives, you can find it, pen, like a puff of air is there, right, per. So that is one way of producing per. And when you have per in the middle position, like apple, right? Apple, we don't have that puff of air. We don't stress per there, right? We just pronounce per, apple, apple. And same phoneme per is little bit different when we say it at the end of a word, like map, map, map. Per comes at the end. But there, of course, we do not stress per. We do not stress per. And we sometimes, although we pronounce per, our listener may not hear it properly. Map, right? Map. It is not as strong as apple. Per in apple. So you can find, depending on the situation or the position, the same phoneme is differently pronounced. Right? So these are the variants of the phoneme per. In other words, these are actually what? Allophones of per. So that is why here we say allophones are the individual members of a class of sounds, which means a phoneme. Individual members. So if you just think about per as the per is a phoneme, yeah, per is a phoneme. Then inside this we have, right, what? Different allophones. And you should know this is how we write an allophone. Okay, inside the square bracket. So when you do your readings, knowing this will be helpful. Okay, if you happen to see any symbol inside square brackets like this, you should understand you are reading an allophone there. Okay, you are reading an allophone of a phoneme. But if you find a symbol within slashes like this, then that is a phoneme. Okay, so according to the example I just talked, per is a phoneme, and practically there are 3 different ways of pronouncing per, and these 3 different ways are called allophones, and this is how we can write them. Okay, so I think you can understand these lines. Allophones are the individual members of a class of sounds or the pronunciable or concrete realizations of an abstraction. Here, abstraction is a phoneme, right? Abstraction is a phoneme, and this is how we practically realize this phoneme, this concept. Abstraction or concept. Usually concept is in the mind, right? But what is there in the mind is practically produced in different ways. Because sometimes we stress, sometimes we don't stress, we just pronounce, and sometimes we don't pronounce clearly as well. So different ways of pronouncing or producing the concept in the mind. So if you take phoneme as the concept, then these allophones are the different realizations, concrete realizations of this concept. Okay. So we speak of the phonetically similar variants of a sound as the allophones of a particular. This is another explanation of allophone, right? The same thing. Same thing using different words. Phonetically similar variants. Phonetically similar. Phonetically similar because these three allophones are produced in the similar way, but there are slight differences among them. Because now we use, of course, we produce per by touching our both lips now. And you can't argue, nobody can argue. The first allophone is produced by touching the both lips, and second allophone of per is produced by some other ways of using the speech organs, and the third one yet another, like that. All the 3 allophones of per are produced by touching the upper and lower lips, both lips. But of course, the variety or the differences are created depending on how we produce. What happens to the airstream? Are we pushing the airstream forcefully out of the mouth? Or is there a puff of air involved? Or do we not pronounce it very clearly? Likewise, the way is different. Okay. So that is why we say allophones, they are the phonetically similar but variants of a sound. Now you have so many examples for allophones, of course, right? In the module itself, you have a lot of examples, but here I'm taking examples for you to understand the point. Okay, only for that purpose. Don't think that I will be discussing all the available examples in the module, right? No, I just want to clarify the point only. So here you have an example from the English language, aspirated and non-aspirated th and th. Right? Aspirated, actually now this is not, of course, I should write this like this, okay? Like this. aspirated should be written like this. This is the correct way. This is an allophone, so I should use square brackets. Can you see the symbol clearly? Or else I'll write it here. This is the t, right?
Can
Symbol
see,
for
ma'am.
the.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is the small mark I use to indicate that this is aspirated. Right? This t is aspirated. Aspirated means a puff of air. Puff of air is produced along with the sound like t, t. I don't know whether you can clearly hear me. It is t.
Mm-hmm.
Non-aspirated term is t, t only, t. Non-aspirated, there's no puff of air. Okay, so that is another allophone. So aspirated t is one allophone, right? And non-aspirated t is another allophone. And both are the allophones of what? The phoneme t. Okay, they are phonetically very similar. Phonetically very similar means how you produce them. Basic way of producing them is the same, but not identical. You know the meaning of the word identical, right? Identical means 100% the same. No, you know about identical twins. Identical twins means the twins who are all alike, right?
Yes.
Both are the very same. They look alike. But these allophones, we say phonetically they are similar. How we produce is the same, but there are slight differences. So we can't say they are identical. There are slight differences because now when you look at this example, first one, t, and second one, t. Did you catch the difference by listening? First one, t.
Yeah.
Right? The second one, t.
T.
No puff of air. The way of production is same, but slight difference is there. Okay, so you should understand allophones are therefore non-distinctive. Non-distinctive or non-contrastive variants of a phoneme. I'm underlining the important lines. Now, you can just compare this with the previous explanation under phoneme, right? When we were talking about phoneme, I told to you, phonemes are distinctive and contrastive, right?
Yeah.
I told. Because why? Because if we change one phoneme in a minimal pair, definitely the word meaning will change. Okay?
Yes.
Phoneme. But here, if I change one allophone, let's say that for a place where I should say aspirated t, I say non-aspirated t. Instead of producing aspirated t, I produce non-aspirated t. Do you think the meaning of the word would change?
Not the meaning, actually the sound, as I.
Yeah.
I think, ma'am, the meaning is not going to be changed, but the sound.
Yeah, sound, there is a slight sound change, right?
Yes.
But meaning is not affected. It remains to be the same meaning. Now, it's a quite clear example, pen, right? Now, how do we people say P-E-N? We just say pen because we are non-native non-native speakers of the English language. We say pen. But if you happen to hear a native person, right, native English speaker or a British or somebody like that, they would say pen, pen, a puff of air, aspirated per. They use aspirated per. But we people use non-aspirated per. But does that cause any difference to the meaning of the word? No. Whether we use aspirated per or non-aspirated per, we mean the same thing, same object, same meaning. Right? That is why here we say allophones are non-distinctive, because by changing allophones, we don't change the meaning of word. Non-contrastive. Okay, the word meaning does not change, although allophones are changed. Since substituting one allophone for another allophone of the same phoneme will not lead to a different word. Okay, the whole thing is important. Okay, so replacing aspirated ter with non-aspirated ter in top or ter with ter in stop will not lead to different words, just slightly odd sounding ones. As you told, actually, only the sound would look odd, right? Other than that, there is no meaning, no change in the meaning. Same word. It is the same word. That is the most important feature of the allophones. Right? You need to remember that. And there are some more characteristics of allophones coming in here. Right? Allophones of a phoneme are predictable. Like we say, they are predictable. They are conditioned by the phonetic environment. So, which means according to how allophones are used, we can predict whether the allophone is going to be stressed or not, hyphenated or not. Likewise, we can guess, we can predict. Usually, when a phoneme occurs at the beginning of a word, for example, right? When a phoneme occurs at the beginning of a word, we stress it. We stress it. So that is predictable, which determines the appearance of one or another allophone, right? So thus we can say that the aspirated version of ter is predicted by its position word or syllable initially before a stress vowel. The non-aspirated version is predicted by all other phonetic environments. So here, aspirated ter, where does it occur then? Aspirated version of ter is predicted by its position, word initially. Initial position of the word or syllable initially before a stress vowel. Right? Like pen, top. Their ter and per are aspirated. Okay? Because they occur at the beginning of the word. And after that, there is a strong vowel, stress vowel. If it is pen, a, vowel a is there following the phoneme. And if it is top, the vowel o is there following the aspirated phoneme. So, therefore, these two phonemes are going to be what? Aspirated. Aspirated ter or aspirated per. So we already know if these phonemes occur at the beginning followed by a vowel sound, definitely they are going to be aspirated. So that is why we say here allophones are predictable, right? They are predictable. And allophones are positional variants, right? Positional variants which are in complementary distribution. You need to be familiar with that term as well. Complementary distribution, which means where one occurs, the other does not. Now, do you know this meaning? Complementary distribution, right? Let's say there are two things, right? Two sounds. We'll say there are two allophones. We are talking about allophones right now. So there are two allophones, but we say these two allophones occur in complementary distribution, which means when one allophone occurs, the other allophone does not occur in the same place. They never occur in the same environment, always in different environments. They never overlap in distribution, rather their distributions complement or complete one another. Okay, now let's see where the example is there. The same example is continuing, of course, throughout. Okay, this is aspirated ter, non-aspirated ter. No? I think now you can identify H. should be like this. Okay. So then aspirated and non-aspirated never occur in the same position. Aspirated occurs syllable initial at the beginning of a syllable, and means non-aspirated occurs in all other environments. Right? So now just think about these two words just to understand more. Right? I am not writing these words in phonetic script, okay? Because to find symbols, it takes another time. No? So I will just write them like this. Okay, these are two words. Right. So where is now, can you guess? Where is the aspirated? Where is the non-aspirated?
Non-aspirated one is first one, top. Stop.
Are you
Top.
sure?
No. Aspirated one is the first one, top.
Yes, yes. This is aspirated because we can predict, no, right? We can predict when a phoneme occurs at the beginning, followed by a strong vowel sound, it is aspirated, right? So this is aspirated. And you just look at this. Aspirated occurs syllable initial and syllable initial. Syllable initial means at the beginning of a syllable. Now, top is one syllable. So at the beginning of this syllable, we have aspirated like this. Okay. And always in syllable initial positions, the phoneme becomes aspirated. The phoneme is aspirated. Now, this is top and pen, another example. So likewise, there are a lot of examples. What about the non-aspirated then? Now look at this. The t in the second word, this is non-aspirated. So what can you say about the environment? Of course, we don't specify the environment here, but we specify the environment of the first word, right? Environment of the first word is we use aspirated phoneme at the syllable initial position. Syllable initial or word initial position, we use aspirated phoneme, like in the first word. And we use non-aspirated phoneme in all the other environments, like in the second example. Now, in the second example, you don't find at the beginning, right? At the beginning of the word. Because at the beginning, we have sir. Another sound is there. So, ter comes after sir, right? So, it does not occur in the word initial position. So, which means the second environment is not the first environment. So, we say, then, what is this? Aspirated occurs always at the word or syllable initial position, and non-aspirated always occur in the other environments. These two never merge, right? Never merge means you don't find any place where aspirated and non-aspirated both occur in the same environment. You never find. That is what here we say. Well, I want to change. Okay, by this complementary distribution. That is the meaning of complementary distribution, because when one sound occurs, one allophone occurs in a place, only that allophone occurs, right? The other allophone does not come into that environment. Is that clear?
Yeah, ma'am. Can understand that.
So you need to be clear with this term, of course. Knowing these terms is quite important, right? Complementary, because if you happen to write something about allophones, you need to do it in a technical way, no, right? You can't just simply use your own words only. I mean, you need to use these underlying terms and words. So to write them, you should understand them first, and that's what I am doing here, to helping you to get the idea of these things. All right. Okay, so you can just read this part again, and you will be clearer on the word complementary distribution. So that is what I was explaining here using an example here also, right? So we say here the aspirated and non-aspirated are in complementary distribution, because aspirated and non-aspirated do not occur in the same environment at the same time. Where aspirated occurs, non-aspirated does not occur, vice versa. Okay, right. So I will clear the writing. Okay, right. Well, and you have some more things coming in about these allophones, right? So there's another term, free variation. Occasionally, allophones are in free variation. So you need to understand what it means. For example, stops may or may not be released word finally. Now, by now you are expected to know what it means by the word stops. In our discussion of consonant sound production, we have talked about stops, plosive, fricative, etc. All these things, right? So stops may or may not be released word finally. So a speaker will release or not release them arbitrarily. And whether or not they are released makes no difference in meaning. Okay. Allophones are in free variation means, of course, releasing, right? Releasing means producing here. Release means producing or pronouncing. So pronouncing or not pronouncing stops at the end of a word. The word final position does not make any difference to the meaning of the word. Right? Okay, now look at this example. No, this is another separate point. But did you get some idea, of course, this free variation? You need to think more about the meaning of this by finding some more examples from the module, of course, right? At the moment, I will not go into the details here. Another point is allophone, just like we discussed, allophones are in complementary distribution. Another equally important point regarding allophones is that they are in free variation. Okay, free variation. But now, if you consider the use of stops or the production of stops, we say if the stops are used or produced in the final position of a word, sometimes they will be produced or pronounced or not pronounced. Whether the particular allophone here in this example stop, right, is pronounced or not, it does not affect the meaning of the word. It does not affect to the meaning of the word. So that is the idea, the basic idea about what you call here free variation, right? And read more and understand more than that. Well, so we'll move on to the next point. Phonemes and allophones are always language or dialect specific. Another important characteristic of phonemes and allophones. Now we have been talking a lot about phonemes and allophones so far. So you can find there are differences. Basically, there are differences. And there are similarities also like this. Here we say both are language specific. For example, in Greek, E and E are allophones of the same phoneme. Language or dialect specific means these the allophone variations or phoneme variations depend on the particular language. So how they behave in Sinhala is different from how they behave in English. Just to say, clarified point, okay? And how they behave in Tamil may be different from how they behave in English language. So language specific means that, right? They are specific, their behavior, their function is specific to language. And you have examples from other languages here, from Greek. E, short E and long E, right? Short E and long E are allophones of the same phoneme, right? Allophones of the same phoneme in Greek. But in English, they are distinct phonemes, because in English language, you know, among the 12 vowels, E and E are two different mother sounds among the 12 vowels. Don't you think so? We don't, because E and E are two phonemes in English, two phonemes among the 12 vowel sounds. But in Greek, of course, E and E are only allophones of the same phoneme. So that is why we say phonemes and allophones are decided by the particular language. They are language specific. In Japanese, L and R are allophones of the same phoneme, right? L and this is L and R are allophones of the same phoneme. Hence, the difficulty many native Japanese speakers have with these two distinct sounds in English. So, when they use the English language, they are in trouble. Why is that? In English, L and R are totally different two phonemes. But for the Japanese people, both are, of course, both belong to the same phoneme family with slight differences. But for the English speakers, these two L and R are totally different, two different phonemes. So there are then some practical issues, right, faced by the Japanese speakers. And in some dialects of North American English, specifically those which do not distinguish pin and pen, the phonemes E and A are allophones of the same phoneme. So there are some dialects, actually, not only language specific, within brackets it says dialect specific also. So it's the same language, there are dialects, no, right? So North American English is one such dialect, which is different from maybe the American English dialect from the other regions of America. This is North American English. So specifically those which do not distinguish pin and pen. The phonemes E is there in pin and A is there in pen, right? Are allophones of the same phoneme. So those who do not know, do not have any idea regarding the difference between pin and pen, for them, E and A are not phonemes. They are only allophones of the same phoneme, E, A. But what about the English we use? The English language, the British English we would say, E and A, are they allophones or are they phonemes? According to us,
They are phoneme.
they are phonemes, yeah. Yeah, because we have a very clear idea that pin and pen are two different words, don't you think? Pin is one word which has one meaning, and pen is another word which has another meaning. So E and A are clearly two different phonemes for us. But in North American English dialect, they don't distinguish, they don't find pin and pen to be that much different. So for them, E and A are almost the same, So therefore, E and A for them are allophones only, not phonemes. Okay, then now I just want to clarify this idea. Phoneme and allophones are always language specific or dialect specific. Depending on the language or the dialect the speakers use, their recognition of phonemes and allophones may vary. Okay, right. That is the point which we are making here. Right, finally, while the phonemes of a language constitute its inventory of distinctive sounds, languages might also have a few marginal phonemes, right? These are sounds which occur in only a limited number of words. Marginal phonemes. For example, one might consider the voiceless velar fricative, right? Occurring in words such as bash, the German composer, or loch, Scottish lake, the meaning, right? In German, bash is composer, the meaning. And loch in Scottish, it means lake. So there, this voiceless velar fricative is the name of this sound. And this is the symbol. Let's take this. Actually, this is the symbol that was there in the module. I was taking it as it is, right? So this is the symbol they have given to indicate this particular type of consonant. So they consider it as a marginal phoneme. Marginal, not used very much. That's the idea, right? Because now when you look at the name, don't you think it is quite unfamiliar? We have voiced or voiceless velar nasals, right? We have voiced velar sounds like, voiced velar sounds are g. G. The name of g, can you remember? This is voiced. I would write V plus g. Because our vocal cords are vibrating. And why do we call it velar? Because our back of the tongue touches the soft palate or the velum. So it is velar. And we block the airstream fully. So it is voiced velar stop. Right? That is the name of g, which is familiar to us. And also we have voiceless velar stop also. K. This is voiceless velar stop. We don't produce voicing. Other than that, it is all the same with g sound. And yet we have another similar kind of thing, ng. This sound also. This is voiced velar nasal. Now these two are stops now. And this is a nasal. Because when we produce this sound, the airstream passes through the nasal cavity and goes out of the body through the nose. That is why we call it a nasal. So we are familiar with voiced or voiceless velar stops and velar nasals. They are familiar to our languages. To our languages means they are familiar to the English language which we use, right? But there's a marginal one, voiceless velar fricative, which is totally unfamiliar to us because we have fricatives, but they are not velar, right? We have s, z, f, v, we have alveolar fricatives, dental fricatives, all right? We have the labiodental fricatives. They are there, f, v, s, the, s, etc. Z, fine. But velar fricatives are not common. They occur in a very limited, among limited number of speakers. And you can find that sound in German and in Scottish languages, especially when they have the word for these two meanings, composer and lake, right? So quite not common. So that kind of situations are also there when we talk about phonemes, right? So whatever we know may not be familiar to the world living in the other end of the world. It's there. That depends on the language. particular language, and some marginal sounds are there which are limited only to few number of people. Okay, like voiceless velar fricative, we never know, we never use that kind of phonemes. So such kind of discrepancies, changes, differences are existing, right? Yeah. Okay, right. So far, we have been talking about phonemes. And Thalani, what do you think? You got some idea? Now, I am sure that you don't remember everything, but whether you got some idea, you all have to check, right? Whether
Yes, ma'am.
you are clear with phoneme and allophone.
Yeah, I have, and that
It's
technical words I have to be thorough. Those are very new for
exactly.
me.
Exactly, yeah. And when you write the answers, it is of course quite advantageous if you use them, right? Rather
Yeah.
than producing the answer using your own words. Of course,
Hmm.
you have to write your own words, but it's 100% better if you can use these terms so that you can save so many number of words, can save time as well, and most importantly, you can show that you know the thing to the examiner.
Yeah.
That is the most important advantage. So be familiar, you need to, always I'm repeating, you need to read the module and please refer some extra things, extra reading things from Google. You can just Google and find something extra, right? Yeah, so do that. All right, then our next discussion is, of course, we have some time left. So that is about phonemic rules. Well, so phonemic rules. Phonemic rules are rules. Of course, if I ask from you what do you mean by phonemic rules, you can simply give an answer. Okay, phonemic rules are rules. But rules about what? That you should be clear at the beginning here, right? Phonemic rules stipulate the different environments in which the allophones of a given phoneme are found. So you can't talk about phonemic rules without talking about allophones. And that is why actually we have been talking about allophones. And after that, we have the discussion on phonemic rules. So what do you mean by then phonemic rules? They are talking about how allophones occur in a given environment. Okay, so just phonemic rules are recognizing some trends, some patterns. We can use the word pattern, of course, right? Some patterns where the particular allophones are occurring as a habit. So they are identified as rules called phonemic rules. So we need to write the phonemic rules like this. You can see here. I have written a phonemic rule here. So for that, we should use some diacritic marks, right? Some marks, we call them diacritic marks that indicate certain phonological processes, some phonological changes. So devoicing, aspiration, unreleased, and dentalization, even labialization are some phonological processes, some phonological changes. Phonological changes means changes done to the sounds. Okay, when we practically say something, when we produce some sounds, when we just talk, simply to say when we talk, right, our sounds undergo certain changes. They are not actually the exact original sounds. In natural conversation, these original sounds are not very much existing as they are, right? They undergo some changes like devoicing, because some voiced sounds become voiceless. That is what you mean by devoicing. And aspiration, we use some puff of air. And unreleased means we pronounce, but the listener does not hear it very clearly, not released. That kind of production. And dentalization means some non-dental sounds becoming dental. Dentalization, as well as nasalization, velarization, retracting, fronting, labialization, all these are different phonological processes, which means some changes done to the sounds. Okay, so when we write phonemic rules, we need to think about these different changes done to the sounds, and we need to show them in writing. And in order to do it clearly, there are some marks introduced, right? So wherever, if you happen to see these marks, you should understand what they stand for. So this sort of a sound, this sort of a mark, a diacritic mark, indicates that there is a devoicing. The sound with this mark, I think you can clearly see this, right? Whatever the symbol given with this mark should be understood to have undergone the process of devoicing. It is not voiced if you have this mark. Okay, and aspiration is indicated with this mark. We earlier found this. And unreleased, if the sound is not very clearly released or pronounced, then it is this mark. And dentalization, I think you can find where the mark is here. And syllabic, if the sound is syllabic, the mark is this. And nasal release, the mark given, lateral release. And length. Length means if you are lengthening, dragging a sound, then this is how that length is indicated. And fronting, retracting, nasalization, velarization, both look the same anyway, right? And labialization, word, right? These are different diacritic marks. So it's better if you are quite interested in working more in phonemic rules, you need to keep these marks in mind along with their meanings, what they mean. Right? Okay, so now let's move on to some examples for phonemic rules so that you can easily understand how it functions. The phonemic rules for allophonic variation can be formalized. Now, actually, this is not an example, right? What I have circled here is not an example. It is the formal structure. It is the structure, of course. Now, how are you going to understand? The symbol between the slashes, that means this one, represents the phoneme. That you know, right? If there is in between slashes, that is a phoneme. So this X is a phoneme. It represents a phoneme, while the symbols in square brackets represent the allophones, right? So you have two allophones given here in this structure, Y and Z. Arrow means is realized as or has the allophone. So now, how are you going to read this rule? X has the allophone of Y in a given environment, right? We need to specify the environment. And X has the allophone Z elsewhere other than this specified environment in all the other places. X becomes Y. X becomes Z. X becomes Y in a particular given environment, right? And X becomes Z in all the other environments, indicated by the word elsewhere. So I think that is there in this paragraph. This rule reads, the phoneme X has the allophones Y and Z. Furthermore, this slash means in the environment. So following the slash, the phonetic environment in which the allophone is found is stated. Now you need to write the particular environment here. And the environment of the last allophone is always stated as elsewhere. Now, last allophone is Z now. So first, in the first line, you specify the environment here in the blank space. And then in the next allophone, always occurs elsewhere. ඒ කියන්නේ මේ ස්පෙસિෆයි කරලා තියෙන environment එක නොවන අනිත් සෑම තැනකම අපිට ලැබෙන්නේ Z කියන allophone එක. That's the idea. Yeah. The environment of the last allophone is always stated as elsewhere, meaning all other environments. So the elsewhere allophone is the one with the widest distribution. Elsewhere allophone is this now. This is the elsewhere allophone. So it has the widest distribution. That is the commonest one. The one found in the greatest variety of environments, right? Note that elsewhere includes all environments, excluding the environments already listed above in the rule, this one, right? Other than this environment, in all the environments we use, we meet is it. That is the idea elsewhere. So thus you always read the rule from top to bottom. Top to bottom means first we get to know the particular environment where X becomes Y. X has Y, particular environment. And then we say X has Z in all the other environments elsewhere. So this is the basic structure of phonemic rule. Okay. So now you have some abbreviations also. Environments are quite varied and they are generally abbreviated in some way. So now this set is available in the book, the module. I have taken it as it is. So there are some abbreviations which are helpful for you to, along with those diacritic marks, you remember these abbreviations also. So this abbreviation is used to indicate word or syllable boundary, right? I mean, in between two words, you can find this. Or in between two syllables also, you can find this mark. And the second mark, position of the allophone, where we are going to put the allophone, right? And when we look at some phonemic rule examples, you will clearly understand the use of these abbreviations. And the third abbreviation, this word or syllable initial. And word or syllable final, and VO dash VO means between vowels. Between vowels. And the next one, word or syllable initial before a stress vowel. This is, if we use an allophone here, this is how we indicate it. And the last one, following a consonant. Consonant is there and the allophone follows that. So there is a dash representing that, because this dash means the position of the allophone. So you can find the position of the allophone here, 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 as well as here, right? So you are given the position of the allophone in relation to vowels, consonants, word boundaries, and all these things. So abbreviations can be understood in that manner. And now here come some examples. Now here also I need to repeat what I told at the beginning of this section. There are so many phonemic rules available in the module, right? But I have taken, I think, only two examples. But there are a lot of examples available. So please go through and try to understand, because knowing these two is not enough. And I have taken these two only to explain the nature of phonemic rules. Okay, right. So if you just have a look at the first one, just have a look at this one before we wind up today's discussion. Since her, right, this is her, consonant her, may be analyzed as a voiceless approximant that is homogenic with the following vowel, E. We could write a rule for the predictable variants of this phoneme as follows. Now we are going to talk about her. Okay. The consonant her. It's called voiceless approximant. And it is usually used with E. E. Like in heat. Actually, this is E, right? Long E sound. Don't confuse that there are no two dots. But this is long, dragging sound. Drag E sound. Okay. So, yeah, we use he, we say he. So, there her is voiceless approximant. Okay. And then the second, the bullet point, see, this her, we have this particular diacritic mark becomes E, like in hid. And the third point, a, right? So it becomes voiceless, right, in front of a. The second one says it becomes again voiceless in front of e as well. And the third point, it becomes voiceless in front of, now you need to read this one, in front of a, like hat. And it becomes oo, right, in front of vowel oo, oo. And also, now this oo is actually lip rounded, right, rounding. So it becomes devoiced in front of would, who sound likewise. So the phonemic rules are, now you might think, okay, what is this? Sometimes by looking at this, it's not that clear. That is the first impression. But the thing is, you just catch one point. Catch one point. Now just go through this line. This rule says that her is articulated as a voiceless approximant that takes on characteristics of the vowel it precedes. It becomes articulated as a voiceless approximant according to the characteristics of the vowel it precedes, right? So thus, before E, her becomes this particular sound. And before E, short E, it becomes this particular sound and so forth. So that is what you need to understand. In front of E, her is E. And in front of short E, her becomes devoiced. As well as in front of a, her becomes devoiced. And in front of oo, her becomes, it's a kind of labialized, I think, right? Oo. And so this is how we should read the phonemic rule. So you don't have to memorize this rule. No need of memorizing. Only thing is try to understand how we can write phonemic rules. So there is a second example also I have taken regarding voiceless stop. This is the phoneme. Look at this also. Now what does it say, the phonemic rule? Per becomes aspirated. Okay. Per becomes aspirated in front of a stress vowel. I think I have given it. This rule says that the phoneme per is realized as aspirated syllable initially before a stress vowel, right? Syllable initially indicated by this mark. Before stress vowel indicated by this. Now this number one line is the meaning of this first phonemic rule. So you have relevant examples to illustrate that. And the second one, per is unreleased. Yeah, now this is the mark for unreleased. Unreleased before another stop consonant or word finally. This is where per occurs. So per becomes unreleased means not very much pronounced in front of a stop consonant. Or there's another environment, final position of the word finally, like kept. Now you can just pronounce these words and check this per is not very prominent, right? You don't produce it very clearly. Kept, opt, scepter, rope, not very clear.
Yes.
It is unreleased. It is unreleased. And there's a third rule also. It is means per in all other environments. Per is used as a voiceless stop in all the other environments indicated by elsewhere. So this is one set of rules actually. One set of rules where there are three parts. Per becomes aspirated in so and so environments, and per becomes unreleased in so and so environments. and per remains as it is, as a voiceless stop in its original characteristic elsewhere, other than the above two environments. That is how we should understand this phonemic rule. Okay, right. So like this, there are so many read them, and I think on the schedule tomorrow also we are meeting. So we will continue our discussion from this point onwards. So this says phonological processes tomorrow. Okay, Tarani. Right. All right, then I will stop the discussion now, and we'll meet tomorrow also. Right, okay, good night.
Okay. Good night, ma'am. Thank you.